Hello. Today is November. We are in November 2018, and we have the Safe Princeton Meetup. We have a special guest, Inbar, who is speaking to us from Denver, Colorado. So we are capturing his through the TV because he is coming through the TV. So on the screen, we have a big snowstorm in Princeton today. So many people could not join, but we still have some people remote. So Inbar is one of the architects who designed the SAFE framework. So we've been discussing what are the questions that we would like to ask him. So some of the things we would like him to say briefly about is 4.6, what's 4.6, a little about DevOps and the matrices that the information radiator checks, and also about how, as a consultant, when you go to an organization, what are the things you should look at to see is the organization really following Agile and Scrum, and what are the matrices that are helpful to track to put the organization toward the right path. So with that, I will hand over to Inbar.
Great. So thank you. And I'll try to briefly talk about what's new in SAFE 4.6, and then go deeper into some of the things that Omar just asked about, metrics and assessment, and then really keep it kind of interactive so that people can ask questions and we can keep this along. So let me share my screen. And hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So people who have been following SAFE for a while know that in SAFE 4.5, we've introduced the concept of the lean enterprise, but we never really dug deep into what it means. I want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about what we've put in 4.6. And what we've created in 4.6 is the idea that a lean enterprise is really, really good at 5 things. First is team and technical agility. So team and technical agility encompasses many of the things that we conceptually associate with Agile and with the work, like working in Agile teams and working in Scrum and working in Kanban.
Excuse me, Inbar.
Yes.
Can you make your screen full screen?
Yeah, sure I can.
Okay.
So really thinking about some of the things that it takes to have a good team level agility, using Scrum, using Kanban, optimizing flow of value, running in iterations. But it's not enough. So the other part of that is not just team agility, it's also technical agility. How do we build quality in? How do we make sure we have code quality? How do we make sure we're thinking of system quality and release quality? So this team and technical agility is an important first part of this journey toward becoming a lean enterprise. Really thinking about how do we use many of the technical practices. A lot of the time, a lot of organizations that have been doing Agile for a while, Agile started in technical practices, XP and all of that. But over the years, we've spent a lot of time on process and not enough time on techniques. So how do we do behavior-driven development, test-driven development? How do we do Agile modeling and Agile architecture? And all those things create a lot more robustness for an Agile organization. Thinking about how we're doing tests first and collapsing the traditional V model by shifting left and thinking faster about testing. All those kind of things help transform the organization. Agile testing, thinking about what should be automated, what should be manual, understanding something should be like that and something be like that, but we need to combine all those kind of testing. The next competency is DevOps and release on demand. And this is another crucial thing. This is a single team needs the ability to deploy, a single program needs the ability to deploy. So this is where we're really focusing on what does it take to deliver value to customers. And we start talking about the concept of we started in 4.5 to discuss the concept of the continuous delivery pipeline. In 4.6, we delve deeper into how do you actually map that journey? How do you think about what was going on? For example, this is an example from a customer I worked with, and they were mapping their process. And some of the things were going well, some of the things were not going well. But the interesting thing is that, for example, their testing, it takes 24 hours to test. Can you make it more efficient? Probably yes, you could do a lot of automation. But if you look at the deploy to production thing, you'll see that there is 1,000 hours wait there. And so, and in deploy to staging, there's another 700 hours wait. So together it's almost 2,000 hours. So even if we take that testing and we move it from 24 hours to 0, the change is going to be limited. And part of the things are because of organizational boundaries and organizational authorities and who can actually authorize things to actually go to production. So we're talking about how do we understand where our problems lie and not just create automation, because DevOps is a lot more than automation. So really mapping where the delivery pipeline is, thinking about how do we explore customer needs continuously, understanding what they need, understand that we don't know what they need, and everything we think is an hypothesis, working with them, collaborating with them, synthesizing things into a single backlog, then improving quality by continuously integrating work into working systems across teams, making sure we're testing end-to-end and deploying to a staging environment, then making sure things are actually in production. And that requires a separation between the concept of deployment and release. Things that I'm putting in production are not necessarily released to customers. How do I separate those concepts so that I can actually deploy continuously, verify in production, monitor in production, respond to problems, but not release to customers yet? Because while I want to continuously deploy, I want to release whenever there is market demand. And some organizations have a market demand for deploying 5 times a day. Some organizations don't. In Safe, I don't think any of the people who are doing Safe would like us to release a new version of Safe 5 times a day. There is a market rhythm, a market cadence that we need to respond. So it's important to be able to release whenever there is market request for it. And then being able to release things to production, stabilize them, and then measure them. And we'll talk later about some metrics, but some of the things that are interesting for organizations is they don't measure the usefulness of what they've done. So they measure how fast they can deploy to production. Great. What if we deploy to production 50 times a day, but 80% of our features are not used by our customers? So have we made anything better? Or have we just gotten to a page where we can deploy more unnecessary things faster? So how do we actually measure the value that we provide and whether people are actually using our value, and then taking it back and thinking, well, using this learning, what should we now build? And Omar, before you talk a little bit about the fact that we now have a DevOps assessment, and we can go even deeper into that later, but really assessing your pipeline maturity. How are we doing in continuous exploration, continuous integration, continuous deployment, release on demand? Understanding where we are as an organization. Are we sitting, crawling, walking, running, flying across all those dimensions? Then really understanding, should I go in and where should I improve? Because if we're only doing really well in continuous integration, or even really well in continuous integration and deployment, that's not providing value to our customers. Only once we're very good across this cycle and can go across from hypothesis to learning very fast, do we create value to our enterprises. So that's DevOps and release on demand. The third competency is business solution lean system engineering. I'm not going to go deep into this, but when you're building even larger things and cyber physical things like planes and air and cars, then you have to plan longer and you have to integrate across multiple Agile release streams. And you have to think about compliance and you have to think about managing supply chain. So, and as an enterprise, you have to be very competent in those and understand exactly how to do it. And I'm going to go light on that unless there's a requirement later to go deeper. And then lean portfolio management goes into how do I understand my investment funding? How do I think both about strategy and connecting it to execution, and portfolio operation, lean governance, and really thinking about budgets and all that. And so those 4 competencies are really important. One of the things that we found is that the competencies that ties them all together is lean agile leadership. And so having leaders who are on the one hand, lean thinking manager teachers who are thinking lean and thinking agile and teaching this to everybody around them and reinforcing and coaching and leading those ways. But on the other side, also driving operational excellence and driving the agile transformation. So it's okay to bring external consultants, coaches to help, but the overall responsibility for a lean and agile journey is with the leaders. How do I develop people? How do I develop teams? How do we build career and skill excellence? So being a lean thinking manager teacher and leading the transformation together with the 4 previous competencies, together these 5 competencies drive the lean enterprise. And that's kind of the main big message behind SAFe 4.6.
So Inbar, coming back to the question we discussed, if agile coach goes to an organization, so the first thing he'll have to see is like, what is the health of the organization without going into too much detail, like at the overall level, and what are some of the matrices that an organization can use to check health of its agility and Scrum practice?
Okay, so let me go somewhere else for this. And I'm going to the Scaled Agile Framework website. And over here we have, on the left side, we have metrics. And we have a lot of metrics across all domains of portfolio, program, large solution, and teams. I want to talk specifically about a few of them. So first, we have to ask yourself, you're asking, how do we know how we're doing on agility? Well, there are many ways we can do this. For example, we in SAFe have a self-assessment that a team can actually take and assess how they're doing in front of product ownership, PI health, technical health, team health. How are they doing in their ituration? How are they doing in getting better as a team? How are they doing in building backlogs? And we can do the same thing for programs. So we have a similar we have a similar self-assessment for programs, asking how is our portfolio alignment and continuous delivery and stakeholder engagement and inspect and adapt and PI results, and that will help us really understand some of our agility. But the question, I think a lot of the questions that people sometimes don't ask is they ask, are we doing Scrum? Are we doing SAFe? Forgetting that these are just tools. The goal is not to do SAFe. The goal is not to do Agile. The goal is to achieve results in an organization. So the first thing I think that the consultant needs to do when they go inside is ask, how are we doing as an enterprise? So if I look at some of our lean portfolio metrics, how are our employees engaged? Do we have employee satisfaction? Do we have good retention of employees? People are happy with their job. People feel secure. People feel that they have good life-work balance, that they work at a sustainable pace. Then customers. How are our customers happy with what we're doing? Are our customers, if I did Net Promoter Scores, do they think we're great? Do they think we're providing the right value at the right time? How is our productivity? How is our predictability? If we say something, how are we admitting those things? Then agility, again, those self-assessment, that's part of it. How are we at releasing often? What's our quality? So we release very often, but it's poor quality. And then the people we work with, our partners, our vendors, how is that working for them? Are they happy or are we overworking them? I think that part of the thing that people sometimes forget is the first thing to look is not how are our Scrum teams doing iteration. It's starting with the big picture of how are we at attaining our goals as an enterprise about getting good customer satisfaction, good quality, and employee satisfaction. If we can get those, the how we do it is secondary. And if we're not, then we can start to use agility to drive and solve some of those problems. But I think the most important thing to focus on is the outcomes that we're trying to achieve.
So, Inbar, can you give an example of how we are going to measure some of these metrics on a periodic basis? So definitely. So we should be going out and asking our customers. And by the way, it doesn't matter if it's internal customers, like in IT, or external customer, if this is a product company. We should be going out and asking themselves,
how happy are you with what we're doing? For example, with Net Promoter Scores. And I think a lot of the time really understanding that our customers aren't satisfied. And then if they're not, asking them, what are you not satisfied? Are you not seeing the value at the right time? Are you not seeing the right quality? Are you not getting from us? Is it too expensive? Trying to understand what are they not happy with the things they're getting. And then asking yourself, if they're not happy with the problems that we're focusing with agility on, how do we respond faster? How do we respond better to what they are asking about? And how do we change direction when they change what they need because of agility? And how do we improve quality? Only then can we go down and say, how can we improve those practices? If there is a problem, at the same time, we can use some of those other metrics so we can run.
Is all your pie gone?
Chris, Dave, can you mute?
So, for example, this DevOps Health Radar that I've introduced before, and again, it's all freely available on the SAFE website. So if you just go to Scaled Agile Framework, click metrics, you can download here a DevOps Health Radar assessment Excel that you can just run by yourself or with your teams. So we run this with teams periodically, let's say every program increment, so around every quarter, to ask ourselves, how are we doing and where should we focus our improvement effort? So those things are done continuously, but not in a way of somebody coming and assessing somebody else, but rather as a team or a program, sitting together and asking ourselves, how are we doing and how can we do better?
Good. Now, I think it's great that Scale Agile has provided so many tools, and many of the tools are available like free of charge. Anyone who has the motivation can use them.
Yeah.
So I think you people are doing great work, and that's why I'm really impressed.
And again, a lot of things that you could just look at pipeline efficiency. How much are we spending waiting versus how much are we spending doing? Or where are bottlenecks? So if we look at overall Kanban states, how are our bottlenecks? And various things about, for example, how are we doing? One of the most basic questions we ask in SAFE is we use this thing called SAFE, the program predictability measure, where we're looking at what were the business value of the things we had said we would do, and what did we deliver, and how are we doing at delivering business objective and business value to our business partners. And then asking ourselves, how does that collect to features? Have we delivered 30% of the features but 90% of the value? Well, then maybe our features are not written correctly. Or if we delivered 95% of the features but 20% of the value, maybe we're not prioritizing things correctly. So all those kind of questions we continuously ask ourselves every program increment in order to try to improve our way to get better. And this tracks directly back to the Agile Manifesto that says the teams should periodically ask themselves how to get better. We're just scaling that same concept from not just a team, but a team of team, and a team of teams, and a whole portfolio.
Right. Changing the topic a little, at this SAFE Summit in DC, I met M. Campbell.
Yes.
And she wrote a very nice book. It's about the
Tribal unity.
Tribal unity. It's a story of a data warehouse. Mm-hmm. And she actually built a team culture at the tribal level. Mm-hmm. And because like some of the people, like some of the big organizations who are a little afraid of these transformations because they don't know what this transformation is and will they lose their job or what the organization is doing. Actually, it can be quite good for everyone involved. And M. Campbell has a very nice story. Can you elaborate on that story?
I don't know what story she told you, but
she basically tribal unity. She created the tribal unity.
Right. So I think that's a lot of when we're thinking of a lot of the things that we're scaling in Scaled Agile.
Yeah.
If we have that concept of a team and scale that to a concept of an Agile release train,
my
question is, how do we create a team and a team of teams that really works like a team? Not just, it's 120 people we put in a room. Yeah. How do we make them feel like an actual team that is responsible for each other and helping each other and working with each other?
Yes.
And I think that cultural transformation, and by the way, when you take it beyond development to operations and the business and security and compliance, this is where you're actually starting to create real value and real engagement in your organization.
I think PI planning plays a big role because when I was doing it, because there were many people who I never knew, like just knew through email, but in PI planning you get to see people face to face.
So in PI planning, and it's really interesting. I mean, when we get this picture of like tens of people coming together, and by the way, this is a remote thing. So some people are remote, some people are together, but they're there at the same time. It's literally amazing. I've had people come to me and say, from different perspectives, I could get answers to questions that would have taken me months in a matter of hours because everybody in the room, and to a place where people are saying, at the end of this time, I got asked what I can do, and I got asked what my opinion is, and I actually felt like my opinion mattered. So this was a huge transformation for many people.
Yes, and management is there, and everyone is there. So I think, and they are talking to each other. So I think this helps build that tribal unity.
It's part of it, but it's also building so planning together is not enough. It's then, for example, the inspect and adapt that comes at the end of the program increment, where teams come together to assess how they were doing, and then ask themselves, how can we be better? So this is a celebration. When we do Scale Agile, and we run our whole company in SAFe, we get together and we talk about what we've done and what we haven't done. We go around and we do appreciations, where people will say, I want to appreciate that person from another team for doing this for me. And somebody will say, I appreciate that person for doing, and we get this kind of understanding of what we have achieved as a tribe. And we just released 4.6, for example, along with 10 courses updated to this. And Dean, our CEO, was standing in there and saying, no one person or one team could have done it by themselves. This is it took a whole village to make this happen. And so coming together, planning together, integrating together, executing together, learning together and how to get better, that builds this kind of tribal unity and this kind of culture of how do we get really good at becoming a large enterprise, a lean enterprise.
So I think just last few minutes, because we don't want to prolong it too much. So what I think is that many of this, like these new methodologies are really helping organizations improve. Can you talk a little about that? The impact to the organizations, the scaling frameworks. How are the organizations benefiting from it? So
first, again, as I'm saying, sometimes you have to look at the end result, not just necessarily the organization. So we had a company presenting at one of our summits, and they were talking about how their work, how what we've done in SAFe helped them create better system that allowed them to create better solutions for cancer patients. Well, that's just transcendent purpose. We're not here. We're here to help people who are creating the world's biggest systems change the world. We have a lot of case studies in SAFe and from different places. And some of the questions we're trying to ask them is, what happened from doing SAFe? Because somebody comes to us and says, we've implemented SAFe. So what? But if we're seeing somebody like Talia telling us that they've delivered 39% more capabilities than before, with 34% less costs, 94% accuracy delivery on commitment for a major rebranding, that's meaningful. Johnson Controls, global technology leader, releases 2 to 4 times faster, reduced the size of the bug backlog 3 times. Those are huge things. So that thing is creating amazing changes for customers across every industry possible. And they, in turn, again, the fact that Johnson Controls is able to do that creates a huge impact for their people. So if we're talking about Fannie Mae or Thales or Standard Bank in South Africa, that change creates, Standard Bank is the biggest banking group, the large banking group in Africa. So they're creating changes across a continent enabled by SAFe. And SAFe is just a tool. The amazing thing is what they're using it to create better environments and better lives for their customers and better better world for everyone.
Okay, we'll be like ending in a few minutes. Team, if you have any question, this is the time to ask Anbar.
I don't have a question, just a comment. I mean, thank you, Omar. This was very informative. A lot of great information here. I've heard a lot about SAFE. I actually haven't gone to the site, and just you navigating it, and while you're talking about it and presenting, I'm definitely going to be checking that out. I mean, it's looks like there's a tremendous amount of information there that we could benefit from.
We're happy.
So Anbar, thank you very much for your time, and I think we are all in it together to help organizations and people improve and also enjoy while doing it.
Definitely.
So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.